I'm gonna do a small clip. Muddy Waters. Orisha Stone, you know about Muddy Water?
I grew up in Gulfport. I used to work at one of the blues clubs.
Okay, now. All right. He an old man up in here.
No, I used to be a shadow.
It's a song called Mojo. Got my mojo working.
Who created that one?
Hold on, let me look.
I'm gonna look that one up too.
It's called I Got My Mojo Working. It might be Muddy Waters.
Yeah, they stay to my Hot Johnny and old blues.
Oh, that's that is Muddy Waters. Oh, okay. Let me try to pull that up. Hold on a second.
Play a little bit of that one.
Yeah. Okay, hold on.
You know, Muddy Waters was the term in reference to the Mississippi River after the wars.
Wow.
It also is a tribal way of saying troubled waters. And then, you know, I'm telling you, there's trouble on the land.
Ooh.
All them blues singers' names got a message in their name that's tied to our tribal.
Wow.
Tying of the knots. I say. Yeah, the knots are intentional, OG. Energy portals.
You know what, family? Imagine tying knots with copper. Copper, yeah. Tying knots with not the solid copper, the one that's real frayed. You know what I mean? It's softer, so it's easy to make a knot. Extension cord, copper. The copper from the extension cord. Imagine making a knot like that, then putting that around a crystal. So all of you who wrap crystals, imagine having knots. I'm just thinking about it.
It's past the energy. The knots of Nancy or the web of Nancy is energy being flowed through it. Copper, exactly, there's energy being flowed through it. But it is a special ritual. Like when you're using a certain kind of rope, it is a certain energy that flows through certain kind of cloth too, certain kind of ropes, cloths or fabrics, silk fabrics and everything else. So each one of them it does or invokes his own spirit. When you talk about the keys of Solomon, he's tying knots to some of his different things. Like I say, some of them are buried, some of them are cast down the river, some of them are buried with certain things. It depends on what kind of juju you're working. So
keys of Solomon is 72 keys, right?
Yes, sir.
It's 72 codons, right? Let that sink in. Each one of the keys of Solomon is access to a specific codon on the DNA in order to activate a particular signature energy. The translation of the name of the God or the angel that restricts the codon is the angle that the light is striking it from in order for it to be under the dominion of that angel or angle of light. It's reading the energy. That's just metaphysically speaking. You know, we don't really get into too much metaphysics, but metaphysically speaking, the 72 Goetia, which is the 72 spirits, which is also tied to the 72 elders. It's all talking about information in genetics passed off under the pretenses of religion and mysticism. But it's genetics. This is why you see the two serpents coiled around the staff, which is representative of the DNA helix. But remember, the straight path is down the middle. Now we all over there with Israel Regardley in the middle pillar. Right? Because the middle pillar, the light can't go through from root chakra to crown chakra if the pillar ain't straight. Right? Then you got to know the difference in the left-hand path and the right-hand path. Don't take sides. Walk the middle path.
We're going to talk about the left hand.
Okay. Now, you know, we're going in deeper water. Chief Rod, what's up with them sacrifices?
Which
You know,
ones?
why do they gotta sacrifice blood for certain rituals to manifest? To get, like who they feeding?
The sacrifice of the blood originated with people that saw us as food, but it ended up because there's a universal rule: the blood of the righteous shall not be spilled in vain. So whenever the blood of the righteous is spilled, the justification is the catalyst of the sacrifice. And that's why they tell you that the blood of the saints will be spilled across the land. The saints are just the ones who have no contracts. They're not bound to anybody. Their blood is free to flow. So you can sacrifice them if you can get them in the right angle. Corrupt their morality to diminish their soul power.
You know what just popped in my head? I don't know where this came from. Suppose they were talking about, instead of literal sacrifices, they were talking about Menses blood, maybe from young, clean sisters.
That's exactly what it. Chief,
That was
Virgin
right.
Menses
So
blood.
if you go to where Credo Mutwa's little village was, where he was staying at, not too far from there, there's this little body of water. And that little body of water is called the Yoni of the earth. And in that body of water, the old Zulu princesses used to do rituals there. In the one of the rites of the passage for the girl is her first misses. She had to experience them in that body of water. That was what you call a earth rite for the women. It was one of the earth rites. They started slaughtering them on their way to the water hole, because if they let them get to the water hole, they was experiencing strange phenomenon which caused harm to the soldiers attacking. They couldn't let the girls get to the water hole. So this is why they isolated him off to himself. He was the caretaker. As the high priest of the Zulu nation, he was the caretaker and the watchman at the post to watch over the Yoni of the earth.
This is getting deep, because in Chinese, when like I had some Chinese coworkers, and their wives were taught only to give the virgin chickens, cook virgin chickens for their husband, not chickens that have had sex. Chickens that have sex don't have as much healing energy. So they would go into Chinatown and get virgin chickens. So I'm wondering now, do we have it all convoluted? Maybe the blood sacrifice was virgin women's Menses blood would be more powerful, because even Chinese say, how do I get the vital force? The vital force from a virgin. And what the Chinese would do is put a raisin. They would check with the parents and put a raisin into the virgin daughter's yoni, and let the dried raisin get saturated with the virgin's juices, and then they would sell the raisins.
Okay, so that's unpacking a whole nother bag right there. Because
go ahead, Chief. Go ahead.
The chemistry involved in the vaginal fluids differ with age. A mature woman that have had multiple sex partners, her vaginal fluid is not going to be the same as the girl that's only had one sex partner. Biochemically, like ratio of chemicals that her body produce, most of it will come out as spermicides and other defensive agents. As she have different partners, she will develop more and more different strains of spermicide. Because it's foreign to her body. She need to fight it off. So her vagina goes into full defense mode the more she's introduced to different sex partners. And it takes years to reverse that. It don't happen in 2 days or 6 months. And this is why most people are addicted to relationships. They can't be by themselves for a year and work on themselves for a year. Right? They break up, they go straight into the next relationship.
Why is that? What they addicted to?
The chemical changes. It's the chemical changes. Then when the chemistry alters, it changes the behavior. These women never take the time to heal. So every time they replace the old guy with a new guy, he's worse to them. It's not that he's worse, it's that she didn't heal from the last guy. So every expectation she had for him, she's holding this new guy for with the new set of expectations that she got for him. Psychological overload. Right? This is why they call them sexually transmitted demons. Remember, when you get to the root, the demon is a thought form, an egregore, that's empowered by repetitively empowering it by its usage. Right? The behavior pattern that's described of the egregore manifests itself as a mental disease or defect, and you can read about all of them in the DSM-V.
Yo, Chief.
What's the DSM-V?
Diagnostic and Statistic Manual of the Psychiatric Association. They got 1 through, I think, like 7 or 8 now. But they all covered a different time period during the evolution of psychiatry and psychology on what was classified as a mental illness. Like, they took it out that jealousy is a mental illness, right, and a learned behavior.
Sure.
It's because it's an egregore and it's taught. In other words, somebody tagging you saying you hit with the jealousy bug.
Wow.
If you go look up the term dementia praecox was the scientific term for jealousy as a sub part of schizophrenia.
Wow.
Yo, Chief. He was asking about the blood sacrifices, and people dab and all sorts of stuff, so everybody ain't on the same page, right? But one under the temple of the feather serpent, he eliminated blood sacrifice. You're supposed to bloodlet yourself. It's not a sacrifice. Sacrifice is giving something of yourself. You see what I'm saying? So everybody chose everybody else to be their sacrifice, and that's basically the problem of Solomon. Solomon, like, we praise Solomon, but Solomon's really an asshole. Think about this, Chief. Solomon had 300 wives and 700 concubines. How many kids did Solomon have? How many kids? Huh?
Hundreds.
What did he do with them?
His kids.
We were just talking about the 72 or those the lesser keys of Solomon. He was feeding them to legions of demons and dragons and all these different things. He was using his blood. His children were his blood.
Okay, now pay attention. Remember, a demon is a thought form. In order for him to give one of his sons to a demon, in order for that thought form to manifest, it got to have a description to it. You ever notice that every angel in the angels got a description to their name?
Most of.
Right? It's the same thing with the demons. They all got a description to their name. And then if you pay attention, a lot of demons got L on them and a lot of angels got L on them.
Yeah, that's right.
I was going there, Chief. I was going there.
Okay, now, what you're looking at is when they saying he's giving sacrifices, he's training them in different stuff. All of the children can't learn the same thing and be the best they can be if you're a good father. And remember, Solomon was the wisest out of, except for who? At the time he was there, he was the wisest of them all, right?
That's what they say, y'all.
Okay, now, if you're looking at it from the eyes of the wisest of it all, he would have to have enough sense to treat each one of his children individually in their individual capacity according to their nature. He's not going to raise all his children the same. He's going to teach them all different stuff that's going to help them best throughout their life. In other words, he infecting them with different thought forms, different demons, different ideas. So you all got the same ideas.
No, I was just going back to the DNA thing when you talk about blood sacrifices and DNA and back to that whole the DNA connection to the ancestor and everything else. Some of them eat blood, but the sacrifice is supposed to come from yourself. Just like he was saying, the woman's sacrifice comes from her menstrual, but the man's supposed to be blood-led.
Right.
Now people use other people's blood.
Right. When you use another as a sacrifice, that's called using a proxy. One in the place of one. Now remember, if it's not an emotional attachment, it's not a sacrifice. You don't even have to sacrifice a person. You can fast and sacrifice hunger.
Ooh, or sacrifice. Ooh, that's hot. That's hot, Chief. I like that.
Yeah. That's what the whole 7 deadly sins, being aware of them, is. If you're a drug addict, you can get control of it by periodically fasting from the drug. If you don't want to go through the 12 steps. Right? If you're a jealous-hearted person, what makes you jealous, you got to study that and find out where the disease infects you at.
Ooh.
In order to break free from it. Right? If you're a glutton, you fast from food. If your emotions is off balance, you fast from food. Why? Controlling your appetite, control all of your base desires. Your base desires is the thing that's hardwired into you as instinctive behavior. It's instinctive to follow the 7 deadly sins.
So, Chief, question. Montauk Chia says one drop of man's sperm is equivalent to 100 drops of blood. So if we're really going to punch the pedal to the metal on sacrifice for the energy, wouldn't it be sexual fluids?
You can do that.
Where do the sperm come from? Now remember, the production of sperm, they tell us it's in the testes. It's not. It's in the cerebral spinal fluid. If your cerebral spinal fluid that went from clear silver to the gold elixir, then your sperm is desired above all others, because now you're working with enlightenment.
Woo!
Right? This is the difference between the royal class and the peasant. The peasant never develops himself into the royal class. That's why he can't never be there, because it's about character and quality of person. Nobody's going to take the time to teach the peasant how to behave as the king. So even if his ambitions was so great as to conquer and become the king, 9.9 out of 10, he's going to become a despot, a rogue king, a king that don't trust nobody. He's scared his empire going to turn on him on every day. He going to rule by force and force alone. No compassion. Do as I say and do as I say only, and anything else going to get you bust upside your head. Right? And his reign is going to be short because his tyrannical ways is going to irk the ires of the grown men in the society who say, we ain't putting up with that bullshit. Because the king can tell men that he no longer can have his daughter or his wife because the king want her now. How many grown men gonna put up with that? And you never know the hatred and ire that you have wreaked once you behave in that pattern as a despot. So now when your assassin come, You done did so much dirt, you don't even know where to look to find out who sent them. If you survive it.
I got a question to the sisters because I heard when you practicing seminal retention, the smell that the brothers actually have the smell of the testosterone or the sperm come through their pores. Could you touch on that, Chief?
We talking about pheromone responses. It's the same with the women. Look, a man might not even be attracted to a chick, but let him get the sense that she ain't had no sex in a while. His whole primal instinct kicks in. It's the same with the woman. If she feel like he's a qualified male based on character and disposition, she don't care if you married. She can tell if your wife been holding out on you. And she's gonna exploit it because it's a tactile sense. Let's go. Okay, so you look at it like pheromone comes from the olfactory, is tied to smell, right? Frequency touches aura to aura, is close proximity, right? So now, if the pheromone faculty is activated, and you also feeling the energy. Now, remember, women naturally intuitive. Those two things gonna tie her into her what am I intuiting drive, because she's gonna have what you call 3 points of triangulation. Right? The smell, the sensation of the energy, and intuition. 3 points of convergence. And now all she have to do is focus on what it feel like, and then she'll know what it is in short order. And the women are not taught to tune into their frequency like that because it disempowers the lower grade of male. And they want the lower grade of male to pollute the dating pool of the qualified women and make them become disgruntled with their selective options. It's all by design.
This we went from knots to what do we call this now?
Contracts, knots.
Oh yeah, this would definitely be. Oh, this is actually ultimate sacrifice. What is more of a sacrifice than to allow your energy, your divine energy, to be compressed and cultivated up the spine? That's a sacrifice of your lower self. Damn.
Right. So when you're looking at sacrifice got rules to it. So you got what's called primary sacrifice. That's self-sacrifice. The highest form of sacrifice known to man is self-sacrifice. Self-sacrifice don't have to be killing yourself. Self-sacrifice can be you realizing the state and condition of your family and applying yourself to a craft until you develop the mastery skills to change your condition to the level that you can raise all of your condition. That's a sacrifice. If you want to be the greatest at something, Michael Jordan didn't just walk out on the basketball court and be Air Jordan. He had to practice and practice and practice. And when Kobe Bryant wanted to find out what made Mike great, what did he find out? Practice. So he was the first one there and the last one to leave. What do the hustlers say about the block? I'll be the first on the block for the cheese and be the last mother to leave. Sacrifice. Put in the work.
I think you got a song, Chief Rod, because you got some bars tonight, bro.
I was quoting Scarface. But what, Brad Jordan, one of my favorite all-time rappers. Right. But when you understand self-sacrifice, you can only sacrifice yourself to an agenda that you can reach, or it'll be rejected. That means you won't put in the work to achieve it because your perception has been blinded to the fact that your potential is infinite if you're willing to work for it. But don't nobody want to work for it because we've been conditioned with fast food and microwaves that everything's supposed to get to the table in a matter of minutes.
Wow.
So now when it comes to spiritual things, which the spirit don't play the short game, spirits play the long game. This 6,000-year rule of the devil played out over a 6,000-year period. That's forever to one of us. We wasn't here in the beginning, and we hope we could see the end. Right? So the plan was being played out with all of these different actors over 6,000 years with the same rulers at the top. The question is, how did they hold their power? It's continuous evolution.
This was a fantastic show. I want to thank you again, Orisha Stone. I want to thank you again, OJ Yemen. Let me pull this up.
While you're doing that, out of all the topics, nobody ever asked me about knots before.
Really?
Nobody never asked me about knots before. So much stuff to go into the knots.
It's deep.
Right? Yeah. Like, used to use knots to tie two tribes together in symbolism as in truth.
I see.
This is what the marriage ceremony of tying a knot is about.
How come nobody ever talked about knots? That's like pre-K 101. You got to know about knots. You got to tie your shoes. Imagine if we knew how to do the knots on our shoes to accomplish what we want so we could walk into our destiny.
I see.
So that you got to know that the shoe that you putting on is the shoe that the person who is in the energy that receives what you want, this is the shoe that they would be wearing as they walked into their purpose. Intention matters. Remember, everything is a wave until you give it some attention, then it collapses into the particle.
Woo!
So when you see yourself at your highest, you see, say, this is something that I would have at this level. Go get it. Go get it, because it's helping you as a, what they call a spiritual aid, a tool to advance your manifesting potential and collapse it into the reality you experiencing.
I see. She said something about number 9. You know this Oya season, right?
Mm-hmm. Ties to the 9 ether.
It's Oya season. Just Scorpio season.
Now, wait a minute now. Okay. Now that y'all brought it up, Chief Rod, Orisha Stone, what's the connection with not numbers and Orishas?
This is year 9. This is year of Oya. You can look at Oya's number, look up everything that Oya represents, the interchange, the change, the hurricane, all the stuff that's cleansing the land of this year. Just like Sister Mara Moss said with us last night, when she said this is the year of completion. This is the year of knowing. This is the year of the wood serpent. Everything is connected. All of that is connected. We were just talking about the intertwining of the wisdom, the serpent's wisdom. That's the knot. You know what I'm saying? The DNA is the knot. Everything you said tonight was connected in one shape, way, or form. But we're most definitely in Oya season, or a time of change. We just stepped into Scorpio season. Scorpio season also represents, in the indigenous culture, represents quick and rapid change.
Yo, what about when sisters wrap that scarf around their head? Do they take the time to put the knot in the right direction?
Damn.
You know what I'm talking about, right?
Definitely. Definitely.
But you know, that's they normally tie it up intuitively.
I see. Everything's intention.
Like, you might see her one day, she might have her knot right here. She come back next day, her knot over here. Next day, her knot in the back.
You know, when they have it on the side, you know they're gonna fire up, man. Because remember, what's her name? Yvonne Stickney having that knot on the side of her head. Back up, Jack. Get ready.
That's saying this is a gazelle, and like I say, you do rapid things, whatever. But yeah, the energy of 9, the energy of Oya is on us right now. So tap into that Oya energy. You spoke on High John earlier, but yeah, most definitely tap into that 9 energy and understanding what shedding is. Right now, we're shedding skin, and we're going. You talking about knots? You got to shed some skin. You know what I'm saying? The divine serpent wisdom.
Yo, taking it back. When the kids got when the sisters have a whole lot of energy, they got 2 knots. You ever check out the ones with the 2 knots on their head? Chief Rod, Arisha Stone family, they're always energized. You notice that? You don't see grandmas with 2 knots. You know, they're called Afro puffs.
Mm-hmm. That's black girl magic.
Big Oya energy.
Yeah. And those are also known as bear ears.
And the more knots they have, the 2 Afro puffs and 1 in the back, they be turbocharged, man.
That's all coded tribal language too. The hairstyle. Look, we don't know why we pay so much attention to people's hair, because we leave messages in the hair.
Oh.
You know, when you see somebody with the locks on, that don't tell you the same thing as you see somebody with afro. But the common denominator is both of those hairstyles tell you, hey, they about self-empowerment.
Yeah.
Right? You never hear anybody say that about weave, even though sisters invented weaves. Weaves. Right? They invented the adorning of the hair. Remember, we used to braid maps into the little girl's hair, so when we fled, we knew where we was going, because we running with the map. Right? We used to also conceal food stuffs in the hair, but we wasn't really concealing the food itself. We was concealing the seeds to grow food wherever we go, to live off the fat of the land. Because if you can preserve the seed, you're not going to braid enough in a girl's hair to feed a family of 4. And that whatever you braid in her hair is probably only going to feed her once. But if you look at it as a seed, you can do so much more with a handful of seeds than you can with a handful of food ready to eat.
I'm sure.
All right, so they knew that when they got to a certain geography, that they would be able to set up camp and grow some food. In the meantime, Papa know how to hunt.
Wow.
Survival in wartime, we came up with all kind of stuff and messages to be relayed through the hairstyles that we wore. So even if you go in the military, they address your hairstyle first. If your hair too long, you ain't no soldier in this man's army.
Facts.
Right? In basic training, I don't care how long your hair is and what your spiritual belief is, it's coming off. See, so they know that it's messages in the hair that they don't want relayed from the battlefield.
I see.
Yo, Arisha Stone, tell us what you moving too fast, brother. Put it back.
No,
what you got there, man.
I'm just confirming what he said about the hair. These are Sambo statues, or they might call them Buddha statues, but you know what they were about the hair. And the hair is energy conductors, like you were just saying. There's energy that goes through the hair, the non-ether, you know what I'm saying? All that's connected. But the hair, it tells, even in the today's, we were slaves, we had to look at the maps on our hair. But what happens when we weren't slaves? We were still using our hair to identify each other, or to harness energy through the Bantu knots. My thing, when I look at different religions like Islam and everything else, when I look at Islam and I look at the source, I go to Allah. When you look at Buddhism, I look at Hinduism. and what Hinduism represents, everything else. So, and then why did they try to manipulate us with the Buddhists or the fat jolly guy when that's not what the Buddha really looked like? So that's why I really go to the source of the symbols before Buddha, and symbol is the universal black God. And he has not.
The Buddha with the black stomach is not a Buddha. The one with the look like the bald head black dude they used to have in the houses in the 70s. That's not the Buddha.
That's what I said. Yeah, I go straight to the symbol.
Listen, there was a Ugandan priest. He wasn't the Buddha, but they used the symbol because the priest carried the legend of that was so similar to the Buddha. So when we get the hold of the teachings, they gave us a Korean whitewashed Buddha as Siddhartha. But the ones of us who remember the real Buddha, we know that he was about the complexion of us. We know this because of his family lineage. The original Dravidians, original people of India. Right. So back then they were the top world class, but now they're at the bottom, just like us. So now we do the alpha to the omega, where the last becomes first and the first becomes last. Just hope you enjoyed yourself while you was at the top.
Sure.
And hope you did well by the people you was tasked with tending to, because now you about to be tended. Right or wrong, you about to get what you got coming. Good, bad, or indifferent.
You know what? When you look at Transformers, it's coiled. That's not technology.
Everywhere you see a bolt is not technology. Remember, the bolt is just a metal artificial knot. They started incorporating metal into knots as rings and pins.
I want to acknowledge Agnes Free Spirit and her husband Kojo, because last Saturday, Chief Rod, Arisha Stone family, their table, she has a whole lot of eclectic jewelry, but the ones that the people of all backgrounds was attracted to was rings with knots. Almost like a subconscious attraction. So I'm saying with that, imagine if we did not technology in our navel. If you have any navel. What would happen if you put the right coil knot in your navel? How would that affect your vital force? That's how I'm thinking, Chief. I'm just like how to take that and
comparative analysis. The naval is the Navy. The naval is the Navy. And the Navy travel in knots, not miles per hour. We're tying back right to what you're saying. Knots in the Navy. Long, short.
Knots in the Navy, knots in the naval. You dropping bars tonight, bro. Yeah.
Hey, man, I had a blast coming over here talking about knots. I'm like, it's so much go into knots, and a lot of people don't pay it no attention because they're so common. Even our zip ties is predicated upon the understanding of a knot. Because before we had zip ties, we had slip knots.
Ooh.
So the science just evolved in order to simplify complex matters.
Yo, look what they dropped in here. Astronauts. I never thought of that.
Wow. He put it up before I said it. You remember the movie Dark Crystal?
Mm-hmm.
You remember the Big Mama when she returned? She left in the universe somewhere and she returned After all the years, that's pretty much been playing out right now. The
Yeah.
Dark Crystal.
Yeah, I didn't see the movie, but I know when it came out, I remember the advertisements for
You never seen the Dark Crystal?
it. Mm-mm.
OG, please watch that
Yeah.
movie. Come
I
back and
was
break
stuck
the
in the
movie down.
library, man. I didn't have time to watch no damn movies. I was too busy
get it.
reading books.
I get it.
Woo!
Go
Yo,
that's the Dark
I
Crystal.
like that.
And listen what they said about the Big Mom and everything else. And this was what 20, 30 years ago, maybe 40 years ago, 50 years ago now. But when the movie came out, look at what's going on today, and everything that's going on today is exactly what they always knew it. They've been playing it out right in our face. The Dark Crystal, the spirals, the not contracts, all of it. The sacrifices.
I'm gonna have to check it out.
The
All
Dark
right, we're gonna wrap it up on this song. I'm gonna play this a little bit. I want to thank you, Chief Rod. You're welcome to come back anytime, family. I want to thank you for being with us tonight, and a big thanks to Arisha Stone. Any last words, Chief Rod?
Just keep watching. It's coming.
Yeah. Okay, so hold on, family. I want y'all to listen up to this. Here we go. Let me
Points are legal viable outlets for public notice. The legal standard is time-stamped archivable format, right? With a reach of more than 1,000 people.
Mhm.
With that being said, Rhoda Cornell, let's get it.
Hey man, also like I say, this right here is evidence. All the tapes that me and Rod been doing is all evidence of all the information that we seeing. You know what I'm saying? So this pretty much is another nail in the coffin. Because when Rod said something about the Adjudication Act, then we went backtrack and found out that hey, how did they reenact this Adjudication Act? They reenacted it through hijacking the Constitution 1789, 88. Hey Rod, could you go in on that? So they hijacked the Constitution and they created this Adjudication Act, which I think was the Freemasons. And people blaming us, say, oh, the Moors did it. Right? Because one bad Moor like Benjamin Banneker. Go ahead.
You gotta remember when we say Moors, we make distinctions between dirty Moors and righteous Moors.
Right.
And a lot of people get that confused and they attack all Moors.
Mhm.
Right? Now, just for some clarification, as soon as Empress Verdiasi let the dirty Moors in, she couldn't go no further. Her infiltrators was present. Malachi was doing just fine until he opened up the Nubian Nation of Moors chapter of the Holy Tabernacle Ministries. Soon as they came in, the bullshit came. Pay attention. This is not an accident. When Malcolm X left the Nation of Islam, wasn't man pale-face enrollee in the Nation of Islam. He said the Nation of Islam has been thoroughly infiltrated by the New York Police Department and the FBI. Right? Then he publicly started naming names. But during his public address, he said, I'm not telling you nothing that the police don't know because they told me. The police gave Malcolm the names of the infiltrators to try to get him to roll on Elijah Muhammad. The audio tape is available on YouTube when the FBI went to Malcolm X to try to get him to work against Elijah Muhammad. Right? So it's not a secret. It's an open secret. It's something that's in the public domain that everybody has overlooked or neglected because it was hidden in plain sight. When it's hidden in plain sight is what we most likely to overlook. Example, everybody remember the I Have a Dream speech from Martin Luther King, but don't nobody remember the interview he did when he was standing in the church explaining how the European peasantry was brought over and undergirded with an economic floor and mechanized their farms in order to undermine and override the farms of the people of the land. We forget about that part. We forget about what he told Harry Belafonte. I think I might have integrated my people into a burning house. right? But how did he find out? Because there's a 4-year gap from 63, I Have a Dream speech, to days before his assassination, where he's giving this speech saying, I'm not sure this nonviolent stuff gonna work, but I done committed to it this far. I got to figure out a way to use it for what? To go get the check. I'm going to Washington and I'm going to get the check, right? We also forget that he said, I'm tired of fighting for something that should have been mine at birth. That means that he knew what his birthright was. But between 63 and 67, 68, what happened that made him change his position and his ideology? It's called the Great Meeting. There was a mainstream media blackout, but it was reported with photographs in the Muhammad Speaks back then, and since been reprinted several times in the final call under the Minister Farrakhan. Elijah Muhammad gave him the whole scoop. We the tribes that don't got treaties. The tribes that don't got treaties is going to be treated worse than all other treaty tribes because we don't want to do business with the interloper. There's receipts on my page right now where it clearly say that it was Black Indians that was working for the government protecting the colonizers from Black Indians. Let that sink in. Roll the coin out. What's next? You're on mute.
Hey, we got a couple of videos about Benjamin Banneker, and I got all the videos you sent me. But this is another question I want to ask you. Now, when you gave me that Adjudication Act, and then I backtracked and found, like I said, found out that they did this ratification, which is pretty much hijacking, and right before that. And then from that, they created the Judicial Act, that created the federal jurisdiction. And then so everything, if based on what the information you gave me last week in the tape we did in the Big Mama's 8, where the adjudication thing is a fraud pretty much, and people have already proven this in court, like the general, the EE General Electric Company went against a couple companies, went against them and proven that it was a fraud. So that stands the reason the Nationalization Act, copyright, the Patent Act, all these acts that came after that is all fruits of a poisonous tree, right, Rod?
Well, when the Pope rescinded the Discovery Doctrine, everything that follows the Discovery Doctrine is rendered null and void using the fruit of the poisonous tree. What do that mean, though? The fruit of the poisonous tree is this. If I rob young elder at gunpoint and take $100,000,
right,
and I take that $100,000 and I open up a dry cleaners, the dry cleaners is bringing in $10,000 a week in revenue.
right.
I'm banking it. I'm not spending it. 90 days later, that's nine. Yeah, that's like $90,000 in the bank.
Right.
Right now. They catch me, they find the weapon, and they still find some of young elder's original money in my person. So they know it ain't no mistake about it. They got the right person. I'm the one that robbed young elder. Okay, now, under the fruit of the poisonous tree, when they find out what I did with the money, right? Yep. They take my cleaners. They take my bank account. I cannot benefit from these fruits that I gained from this robbing young elder situation.
Why? Yeah.
Now, there's two things they can do with it. Normally, if the injured party is privy to the information, which means the indictment, right? If he's privy to the indictment, that means he's a legitimate complaining party. And I was found guilty. Under the Restitution Act, I have to make him whole by surrendering any ill gains acquired off of young elders' stolen money. So when we go into the court, and they find out, well, let me show you what he did with the money. And they're going to draw up a financial chart. It's going to show how much, what day I robbed Young Elder, how much I got from Young Elder, how much I spent on the dry cleaners, how much I made in my accounting process each week of dry cleaners. Right? Now, once they get done doing all of that accounting, let's say that $100,000 I robbed Young Elder for is now $1 million. I can't have it. They can't give it back to me. Now, where is they getting this from? It's in the Uniform Commercial Code. Until the Young Elder discover who it was that robbed him, under the Uniform Commercial Code, I can live off of that. But if he come back and say, hey, you the motherfucker that robbed me, right? And I was like, the gig is up, I'm caught, right? Now, according to Uniform Commercial Code, everything that I did up until this point was fine. But everything that I got that's tied to Young Elder's money has to be surrendered to Young Elder. Fruit of the poison tree applies. How do that apply to what's going on with the government? They've been sending us into servitude because prison is slavery according to the 13th Amendment.
That's right.
So they've been sending us back into bondage and voluntary servitude at an alarming, disproportionate rate to the other per capita population of the land. And by them sending us into servitude, and we not part of any agreements with them, we was not part, all of us wasn't part of the 5 civilized tribes.
That's right.
Right? The majority of us was part of the 4,995 tribes that's called foreign dependent nations, enemy combatants, belligerent tribes, non-treaty tribes, outlaw tribes. All those are different names that they use in reference to us over the years, other than the epithets that they give us for assumed nationality that we didn't take on.
No.
They don't want me to tell them I'm growth and development and that my chief Larry Hoover. They want me to say I'm an American citizen and the president is my leader. He not my leader. He not my chief. Right? So I can't make an allegiance with him because he's not my chief. Mm-hmm. And my chief is belligerent to anybody in public office. Why? Because they belligerent to him first. How do we know this? Because of how they entrapped him into a made-up, fabricated case and kept him in prison for 50 years. That's how we know. They actions, right? So that's called an overt act. When you seize the leader of a tribe, that's a blatant act of war, right? We supposed to be running up in there getting our shit back, but we was under the George Washington Conjure Challenge, which was sorcery, which allowed us to be in a slumber for 200 years. We can't quite figure out what's going on. And now we can see it clearly because we no longer in the age of Pisces and all of the veils must be lifted. So all of the veils being lifted, we can see clearly now the rain is gone. We know who they are, where they came from, how they got here. We know where they settled at. We know how they set up shop. We know their motives, they MO, their modus operandi, their method of operations. We know they kind games, all of their conniving and manipulative tricknology. 120 degrees of tricknology cannot beat 360 degrees of God body knowledge of self. It can't work. Mm-hmm. It's going to be 1/3 short. Because if you got 360, you take 120 away, that leaves you 240 to work with. If your 240 degrees of knowledge itself is not superior to 820 degrees of trick knowledge, then you fake it. So I asked a question years ago. So you say you a God, do some God shit. You don't even know the difference between what gods do and what men do. Do some God shit if you want to be a God. If you're not on the status of a high intellectual capacity, you're not on your God mode yet. If you can't intuit, that means feel your way through what's being done, you ain't in God mode yet. All these people that's professionally be the chosen people of God, the sons of God, the saved people of God, and all these, they all are confused. They're not confused because they want to be confused. They confused because it was designed to confuse them of knowledge of self. So I was talking to a brother a little while ago, and he was telling me about Islam and Nation of Islam. I said, do you know why their doctrines is fundamentally different? He said, no, tell me. And I told him, the tribal rule is you can use anybody's information, but you got to make it your own. You can only stay in another chief house until you become the chief to establish your own. When we show this working in the Nation of Islam by students of Elijah Muhammad that have took what they learned from Elijah and made it their own, and they opened up their own house. You got Clarence 13X, the Nation of Gods and Earths. You got Silas Muhammad from the new Lost Found Nation of Islam. You got Hulan X, aka Yahweh ben Yahweh, in the Hebrew Israelites. Then you got people that detest Elijah Muhammad after he taught them how to be a man, and they converted to Sunni Islam, like Siraj Wahhaj. Bilal Phillips was all associated with the early Nation of Islam movements in New York. But once they got to the point where they had outgrown what they thought was a doctrine that didn't suit them, they needed that discipline. They couldn't have been a functional imam in Sunni Islam without first being disciplined because of the nature of the people of the land. Because of our nature, the Nation of Islam has to have a higher level of discipline for us because we ain't easy to discipline. And we hard-headed, and we stubborn. And we don't believe fat meat greasy even when we chewing it. And our lips is shiny. And our fingers is slippery. So we needed an excessive amount of discipline, an excessive amount of organized structure in order to be able to organize the knowledge of self into a cohesive format. A lot of people right now, they see the dirty Moors in the infiltration of our organizations. And then they blame the whole organization for the infiltrators' actions. Right? For the longest, everybody thought that Farrakhan and Elijah Muhammad had Malcolm killed until the FBI files finally come out that two of the people that went to prison wasn't even in the location at the time. The one guy that went to prison was actually the only one he was the first one to get out. Make it make sense. He was the first one to get out, walked around New Jersey unharmed and untouched. But them other two sat in prison another 15, 20 years after that guy was roaming the streets. He passed away though, but he was the only one that was actually involved with the New York Police Department, the FBI, and the assassination of Malcolm X. The other two was innocent. They did all that time for shooting Malcolm, and it was two Negro FBI agents that was the trigger pullers. One of them was actually still standing around Elijah Muhammad after the fact. The one with the shotgun and the peacoat. He stayed in the New York mosque the whole time. While the fallout was going on, he knew he was an infiltrator. And he ain't never stopped talking bad about Malcolm. But he was the infiltrator. Right? So when we look back on it now with the FBI reports, and then we realize that all them years we was accusing the wrong people of the fall of our shining black prince. Just like Martin. We thought that some dude named what's his name? Was it Lee Harvey Oswald? No, that's Kennedy. James Earl Ray. All this time we was thinking that James Earl Ray was the trigger man in the Martin Luther King assassination until we discovered that one, the bullet didn't kill him. The doctor killed him in the hospital because it came out in court. And we discovered that this dude was charged with Martin Luther King's murder and had nothing to do with it, was nowhere near the site, and they paid him $1 million to confess and never paid his family the money, which they promised him to do. When they reneged on, all this came out in the trial. But also what came out in the trial is that Martin was set up by them niggas that was on the balcony with him.
No Ty Jesse.
And they talked about, it's another receipt if you go back a couple days on my page, where the brother was talking about how they was paid massive amounts of money to the church to bust up the cohesion by sending everybody off and giving them grants to do their own thing. All that was the fallout for Martin. But now we have people who don't understand what Martin went through saying that he was a traitor because he changed his name from Michael King Jr. to Martin Luther King Jr., just like his daddy changed his name from Michael King Sr. to Martin Luther King Sr. Martin didn't actually have a name change till he was like an adult in his 20s. But they never stopped calling him Martin Luther from the time his father changed his name when Martin was about 5. So he wasn't even using his government name at all. Guess what? When you use a nickname or a non-government name, that's a tribal name. That's your nickname is your tribal name. That means your people named you that name and it stuck because of your character and your personality. So when we're looking back on history, it's 2020. But it's clouded in a bunch of chaos to keep us confused. They had us thinking that Malcolm and Martin was in opposite ideologies. But when Dr. Clark told us that the contingency plan for the nonviolent movement was to unleash Malcolm. So they had to get Malcolm first before they get Martin. Strategic military planning. We never stopped fighting against the government. And they never stopped fighting against us. When we was complaining in the early 1900s, they didn't have it an open declaration of war on the record. They eventually put it in there where they declared war on the people. We are the people. When you see we the people, that means nappy head, woolly hair, brown skin, Aksumi Americans. Don't mean we the people as in everybody. We the people used to be the name of every tribe in their own tribal tongue, right? Even the word tribe is an exonym. We didn't refer to ourselves separate from one another because the sign language in the original native sign language for our tribal name was always we the people. So no matter, and there was another term we used called the kinfolk. The kinfolk was the ceremonial side that did the ceremonies, right? And they was the ones that ceremonial tribal members went to. They was primarily the Blue House, and they called them kinfolk because everybody in the tribe wasn't a blood member of the tribe. They wasn't in the tribe by blood. They was in there by honor. Different system, different standard. On the Red House, you had to be blood related to somebody, or you can't get in none of their tribes. That's why right now, most of the people, you could reach out to Chief Warhorse, she's not going to talk to y'all. It ain't that she acting funny. She out the Red House. If you ain't related by blood, she don't want to really F with you. She don't really trust nobody that ain't from her bloodline. That's the way that they wired on her side of the family. Right? So our rules, under the kinfolk rules, what we call our GD literature. that teaches us growth and development. And it teaches us how to recognize other tribes and how to treat the foreign tribes when they come on the land. Ambassadors is what we being trained for, right? Why do we need to be ambassadors? Because ain't nobody training us to be it. So the executive board put out the literature that actually trains us to do this work that me and Elder doing, right? I speak up for Malachi, but Malachi not my chief. Y'all gotta remember that. I speak up for Angel Bay. That's not my chief. Larry, my chief. I speak up for Prince Lowe, Four Corner Hustler, and those are kinfolk. They not my chief. But when they've been done wrong and they've been attacked by the system, I speak up for Giant Africa, but I'm not part of the movement. I speak up for Mutulu Shakur, but I'm not part of the African Liberation Army. I speak up for Finney and Tupac and Huey, but I ain't no Panther. Right? I remind y'all about George Soledad Brother Jackson, and I am a gorilla. BGF Blood Oath. Right? I speak up for Assata Shakur, but I wasn't part of the New African Liberation Army. All these different people was the leadership that was working to liberate us. So I gotta know what they was doing, know if they was in the right, know how they got infiltrated. If I'm gonna come out and tell our people why we ain't got our shit. And I'm telling y'all why we ain't got it. And no matter whether you like Trump or not, I don't care neither way about it. But he doing the work we need done. He's dismantling their corporations. And Greenland is a critical part of Turtle Island that y'all don't even know. The story is told as the story of Loki and the Ice Princess. Because when Big Mama returned, that's the crown of Turtle Island. That means that the sacerdotal seat in Philadelphia is when they move across the Mississippi, right? She's still gonna have to have what's called a embassy suite in Greenland as representing the crown chakra of Turtle Island. So Trump got to get it back. He ain't got no choice. And
That court. And
we are saying the same thing.
Yeah, right. Go ahead.
You got to remember, Dred Scott